So I am recording this. I'm going to share my screen. Please make sure to say hello in the chat. You don't necessarily have to say hello and goodbye. And as always, as I've said on numerous occasions, when I'm finished talking in about 10 minutes, if there are questions, you can hang out and ask the questions live, or you can put them in the chat, or you can also go on to Google Classroom and go to the Zoom meeting, and I'll show you what that looks like right now while I'm thinking about it. So for today, period 2, if you click on Classwork at the top of the screen, I've got these broken out into different categories. So Zoom meetings, our period 2 Zoom meeting is always going to have this login, and it should always be at the top of the screen. Next thing down is my office hours from 10 to 11. This has a different, meeting ID, and it has a different office, password. There's one that's labeled procedures. There's probably going to be another one labeled projects. At the end of the week, I'll do a slideshow and call it weekly review. So there'll be another assignment here. It's not necessarily an assignment for you to do any work, but it's a recap of everything that we talked about this week. And then finally, down at the bottom, there's the daily doodles. So is today the 15th or the 16th? Oh, I forgot to label it. So this one should be labeled September 16th. In any event, this particular, yes, there's a Zoom today. Sorry, had to laugh at that. So this particular day, I will apologize. This is a 16-minute video for today, as well as the 19-minute video, which was my Zoom from my first period class. So in case I miss anything, I'm not going to re-record or re-save unless the information changes pretty radically. But everything I covered here, you can watch again, and I'll try to make sure to go down my list and cover everything today. There's also here's the weekly slideshow, which I already have open in another tab. So I'll get back to there right now. Excuse me. So I'm going to present this. Here's today's agenda for Wednesday, the 16th of September, 2020. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Google Drive hierarchy and show you how to create folders and so forth. And there's a specific way that I'd like you to name them. So let me get back right into that right now. And I'm actually going to use another example. Oh, whoops. Notice also there's a YouTube video embedded here in my slideshow. This is actually the 16-minute video from today, where I've added a new character to your daily doodles. So in your folders, I've got a whole bunch of different types of folders, so let me talk a little bit about hierarchy first. Google Drive, if you think about Google Drive as a file cabinet, the drive itself is the cabinet. All these folders are drawers, and inside the drawer, there could be individual pieces of artwork or different folders for different things that you are placing things in. So I'm going to create a folder. This is my Mr. Wing's rooms. I've got a folder called Clark Middle School. So what I want you to do is, in your Google Drive, you don't have to go this deep, but in your Google Drive, I want you to create a new folder. And I want you to call it whatever grade you're in. I'm just using 8th grade as an example. Inside your 8th grade folder, I want you to create another folder. In this one, you're going to call it Art. And I might be getting this wrong, so forgive me. I'm looking at my notes. And I'll have to standardize this later, but I'm going to call this Art. Anytime you see a student in any of my videos, your first name goes here, or excuse me, your first initial and your last name go here. You'll also note that I'm putting an underscore, which is done by holding the Shift key down and tapping the minus, which is right next to the 0 on your keyboard. So let's call this Art 2 because it's during period 2. A student. And you're already in the 8th grade folder, but I want you to put a number 8 for 8th grade, or 7 for 7th grade, or 6 for 6th grade. Please remember that anytime you see a student, to put your first initial and last name in it, on it. So I'm going to create this folder, and you'll see the hierarchy up here start to build. So I'm going to go back to Clark Middle School because this is, you're starting to lose what's going on up here. I'm going to double click on 8th grade. Nope, this 8th grade. Okay, so when I double click on this folder that has your name on it, Art 2, 2nd period, 8th grade, I'm going to double click here. And then I'm going to go to this little triangle over here and click here and select Share. Then I'm going to type in my email address. Actually, I already have my name on there, so let me use a different one. Vincent Morris was my first principal when I first started teaching. Now make sure that when you share this with people, when you put my name in here, leave it as editor and then just click send. And remember, don't use vmorris1 because that was my former principal. Notice how it added this icon right here. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to click here again and click Get Shareable Link. Down here at the bottom where it says Restricted, click here and select San Diego Unified School District. And then leave this over here at Viewer. Here's why you're doing this. 2 reasons. You have me as someone you've shared with as an editor, but whatever you put in this folder, I will have access to. From time to time, I'll create a video with specific suggestions for you on one of your projects that you're working on. So for instance, if I see some information from your, when you upload your doodles or when we start colorizing these on the computer next week, I can give you little individual instruction. Unless I see 5 or 6 or 7 people making the same mistake, I might make a generic video example. But with my permissions in your folder, and I'll take this one off. Nope, can't take it off from here. Sorry, still figuring this thing out. I can put notes in here, I can put videos in here, I can add artwork, etc. to here. And that's just information. That's the way we're going to communicate back and forth between students and teachers. You can also give other people access, but you can't give people access outside of San Diego Unified School District. So only people with the sandy.net email address or login. The other important thing about this is, notice the symbol here, it's not going to be on this one. In other words, you can have your history, your math, your English, whatever, you can create separate folders for each class, and the only people that have access to it are the people you've given access to it. I would suggest that you give the editing privileges to your other teachers, but don't give access to anyone else, otherwise they'll mess with your files. Okay, back to this. File naming conventions. I showed you how to label your folder. So let me show you how to label one of your files. I'm going to upload a file from my computer just so that you can see the example. So I'm going to click New, File Upload, and I'm just going to put something random in here. If I can find something. Desktop. Okay, this is a relatively new computer, so I don't have a whole lot of stuff on here. Okay, I'll just grab one of these. You have a question, Ricardo? Unmute your microphone and ask your question.
So, about the website.
Yeah.
How do we post our artwork? Because I haven't figured it out still.
Okay, let me finish doing this first, and then I'll get to that question. That's a very good question.
Okay.
Okay, so give me just a minute. So this already has a name on it, but I'm going to change the name of it by right mouse clicking on it. Do me a favor, Ricardo, and add that question to the chat, just so that I don't forget. I'm going to click on rename, and there's a very specific way I would like you to name this. If this is your daily doodle, I'm going to call this project name, but you can put, if it's, for instance, your daily doodle, you can just put the capital DD, then you're going to put an underscore, and your first initial and last name, and another underscore, and what period you're here. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Yeah. So let's just put P2, for instance. I'm going to replace this with a hashtag. But in here goes period 2 for this class, period 1 or 3 for the other ones. Project name might change slightly, because if you're doing the daily doodle, for instance, it might be for today's date, which is 0916. Did I get that right? Yep, 16th. So daily doodle 0916, since there's going to be a whole ton of these between now and the end of this quarter, this would be a great way to keep track of them. Now, since I'm asking you to take pictures of the process from today's video, you'll see that later, but I want you to take pictures of the process. You might want to label it A, B, C, D, etc., depending on how many photos you take, and upload. I'm going to click OK, and even though this isn't a daily doodle, you can sort of see it. And here's the beauty of it. It's already shared. You can see this shared symbol here. So let me show very quickly how to add photos to your website. I created another tab. I'm going to type in sites.google.com. Once again, notice that it finished the sentence for me, so I'm just going to tap the right arrow and hit enter. I'm going to go to Trojan Art 2. And there's two different things that I want to show you how to do on this. I'm going to insert a page. Click the plus down here and call it Doodles. And then since I don't want doodles at the top of my screen up here, I'm going to click right here one time and then drag this down into projects. Notice the difference. If I leave it here, it's going to stay in the same place. If I go there, it's going to put it below projects. But what I want is I want it to be a submenu, so I'm going to put it right here. And now there's a little arrow here showing that it's a submenu underneath projects. And I got a phone ringing behind me somewhere. I'm just going to ignore that for now. So here's what I would like you to do. I'm going to open up another tab. I'm going to go to Slides. Oops, if I can spell correctly. .google.com. I'm going to create a new slideshow by clicking the plus down here in the lower right-hand corner. I'm going to click one time here and call this Daily Doodles. Now, if you don't like the type, here's what I like to do. I'm going to hold the control key down and tap the letter A while I still have the cursor up there at the top of the screen to select all of that text. I'm going to copy it by tapping or holding the control key down and tapping the letter C for copy. Then I'm going to click one time here and paste it. And then put your name here. Please make sure this is your full name. I'm going to call this guy Andrew Student, because that's his first name, initial, whatever. So then I'm going to go over here to the left-hand side of the screen, and I'm going to create a new slide. Put today's date in here. I'm going to move this text box over here to the right by grabbing the handlebar right here and making it about halfway. This is the description of whatever it is you're doing. And again, I'll get into more detail on descriptions later, but you're going to put the size, the media. So if you did it in pencil, markers, colored pencils, etc., digitally. And then we're going to go up here and select Insert Image. You can select Upload from Computer, but you should have a bunch of stuff in your Google Drive because some of my previous videos have already shown you how to do this. So I'm going to click on Drive, and I'm just going to insert today's doodle, which has been uploaded. And that's how you insert a picture into a slideshow. I'm going to close this tab, and on Doodles, I'm going to click one time here, go to the right and click Insert, go down to Drive, or Slides, excuse me, and then I'm going to double click this. I'm going to close this tab over here so I can see a larger screen on here, and I'm going to make this larger. If you run out of space at the bottom, just keep scrolling down, and I want this to be full screen. Then I'm going to publish it. This shows that that page did not exist in the previous iteration of this. This is the new one. I'm going to click Publish here. And then at the bottom, I'm going to click View. Now, here's the cool thing about this. This is a website. This is my Trojan Art 2 website on my Daily Doodles page. While I'm watching this, or while I'm looking at this, If I want to go full screen, all I got to do is click this little button down here at the bottom that says full screen. And now my presentation is showing full screen on my website. So I'm going to tap the right arrow on my keyboard, which is down at the lower right corner of my keyboard. And this is the Daily Doodle. Here's the really cool thing about this, though. I'm going to go back to my slideshows. And I'm going to open up my Daily Doodle slide. And I'm going to add a page. Actually, since I have all this information already here, I'm going to click this with right mouse click on this one over here and duplicate the slide and change this to the 17th. Then I can click on this and delete it. Go back up to my insert image, go to Drive. And I don't have a drawing for tomorrow, obviously, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here, and this, I just held the Shift key down, and this one, and it should insert all three of these. So you can move them around, you can resize them. I'm holding the Shift key down when I resize. That way it doesn't skew the picture. If I do this, oh, it's gonna do it right. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I'm just thinking out loud here. So here was my initial sketch, and you'll see this on the video. I'm going to delete this for the time being, this text box. This was my second sketch. You see, if you saw those red lines, the red lines show that it's lined up with the bottom. Then I can hold the Shift key down and reduce this. Then I can move this one over. And since they don't all three fit, I'm going to select all three by holding the Shift key down and selecting the other two. Then I'm going to let go of the Shift key, and I'm going to reduce this by stretching it like this. So now I've got the first part of the drawing, the second part of the drawing, which was to darken in those areas, and then the third part. These are all pencil sketches, by the way. I just bumped up the contrast on this one, and the video shows you how to do that. So I'm actually going to change this to the 16th, and I'm going to add steps to it. So here's the really cool thing about this. Google automatically saves everything that you do. So on this web page, which as you'll notice, there's no tools over here. Let me move this out of the way. This is in edit mode over here, so you can see the tools. This is the live version. I'm going to go full screen on this again. And then I'm going to hit the right arrow to see if it updated. Okay, it hasn't updated, so here's what you have to do. Go back to this, make it not full screen. I just tapped the escape key on my keyboard, which is at the top left-hand corner of my keyboard. I'm going to hold the Control key down, which is right next to the Windows key, and tap the letter R. That did what's called a refresh. So now when I view this and I tap the right arrow, it goes to today's Daily Doodle. And now the other slide automatically updated on the slideshow in my Google site. So I am going to stop sharing my screen. Let me go back to my slides to make sure I covered everything. I actually had more things to cover today, but during my first period classes started getting long, so I added those for tomorrow. So this is what we talked about today: setting up folders and creating a hierarchy, file naming conventions, and then as an added bonus, because somebody asked, I showed you how to add images to a slideshow and add slides to your site. So you got a bonus today, sort of. Oh, somebody has a question. Unmute your microphone and ask the question, please.
So now that you're explaining about the images thing, how can we see our website, like without the tools to like?
Okay, so every time you make a change, good question. Obviously, this is not, excuse me, obviously this is not spelled correctly, but I did this on purpose so that there was a change to the website. I'm going to click Publish. Then I'm going to click Publish again. Then at the bottom, I'm going to click View. And every change you've made, you see the change here? I will change this back, but every change you've made is already on here. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And by the way, when I ask you to share your website with me, make sure that it's the live version, meaning there are no tools over here. So you know this is the live version that everyone with a sandy.net email address or login can see. If you're here and you can see the tools over here, this is not the live version, this is the edit version. This is where you'd make all your changes. So you have to be on the live version. Click one time here at the top of the screen where the website address is, copy this, and then on one of the very first assignments from 3 weeks ago, I added the assignment of sharing your website with me. So let me go back to Classwork. Create and share your Google site. So if you click here, click on this form right here. Oh, okay, since I've already responded. And there's a place at the bottom of this form that shows where you can copy and paste the address into. So let's see if I have that on here. Doodle share. You can see I create a lot of forms on here. Contact, Netiquette. Oh, here it is, share your Google site. So it's going to look a little different on yours because I have my editing tools over here. So you always put your student ID, first name, last name, what period you have me in. Just click those, and then down here at the bottom is where you'll paste in your, this is where you paste in your URL. And again, it looks different on mine because this is my editable form. So if you haven't done that yet, please make sure to do that. Share your Google site with me. Are there any other questions?
For the sharing form, are you available to like reset it for some students?
Yes, I am. The other thing you can do, since it's in there, you can also put it in here. Excuse me. You can also go to the stream and add it as a comment.
Okay.
Okay. And here's the cool thing that I'm going to end up doing that I haven't done yet. Oop. The way this helps me as a teacher is on this page of my website. Notice how it changed the address up here. If you type in trojanart.com, it changed the address up here at the top. But this is my web page. And on over here where it says student sites, each period has their websites. So I can go to my website, click on your website, and see what you've updated. This student hasn't updated anything yet, and I don't want to embarrass him in case you know him, but this is how I quickly get to your websites. Here's the cool thing about updating your website on a regular basis. I was just informed yesterday that if you've missed any class periods this week, but you turned in work somewhere and communicated with me, technically you're present all week. Let me repeat that. At the end of the week, tomorrow, if you update your website, and I'll show you the example, actually Friday, if you update your website and I see that there are changes made to it, if you communicate through the comment section, or if you want to send a personal message to my email address, or if you go to my Google Voice and you want to text me a message through my Google Voice number, which, by the way, is at the bottom of all of my website screens. So here's my Google Voice number here. You can text me a message there. Any contact that you make with me on a daily basis counts towards attendance. So if you miss a class for whatever reason, but you're doing all of the work, technically you're present for all of the for the whole week. Does that make sense? Am I muddying up everything as more than it needed to be? I will probably do another video. I'm going to stop the video right now.